warnings for everybody. Make sure you keep your cell phones either turned off, on vibrate, on airplane mode. Be respectful of everybody while we're here. Keep your side conversations down to a minimum. Members will have an opportunity to address each item that will be voted on tonight. You'll be allowed 2 minutes each. We will have time tonight for the open forum, which will be at 3 minutes each at the end. Make sure if you have anything for open forum, you turn everything over to Jennifer so she can have everyone listed, and we can get everybody at the appropriate time. With that,
Bob, can you explain to some people who are maybe new here that they have to write their request to speak
I thought I
out?
already had, but if not, we'll make it short.
I don't.
Thank you. Jennifer has the documents. She has them up. Thank you, Ms. Jennifer. And after that, after you complete it, just make sure you hand it to her, and she'll make sure we have it at the end of the meeting. Okay? With that, review and approval of the April 23rd open meeting. Do I have a motion on that?
I'll motion that we accept the April 23rd board meeting minutes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? Discussion from the community? Hearing none. All those in favor? Thank you.
Hang on, Jen, I'm not voting again.
May 14th, open work session meeting. We have a motion to accept. Motion to.
I'll make a motion to approve the May 14th Board of Directors work session minute.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Bonnie?
Thank you, Connie.
I want to bring your microphone closer.
Thank you. Any discussion from the board? Any discussion from the community? Hearing none, all those in favor? Thank you. I turn it over to Tim now for the treasurer's report.
Okay, you have your little executive summaries there? That's what I'm going to go through. Get organized here one second.
Is it easier here for this for you to use this one?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's see. In terms of this is the report for April. In terms of our operating cash, we had $3.45 million in operating cash, up $441,000 from last month. And again, this is typical since we're on a quarterly billing system. We get a chunk of cash at the beginning of each quarter and then bleed it off through the quarter. Capital Improvement Fund, this is the $300,000 that we set aside for potential improvements that is not encumbered by our budget, and that had interest of $500 for the month. In terms of the reserve master, it was at $3.8 million, which is up $83,000 from last month. The Lakeview Reserve for their roads and gates, $140,000, up $885 between contributions and interest. And Stonegate, $490,000, up again $4,200. Jumping down to the accounts receivable, we're in month 4, and again, as we have last year and as we have every year, since we're on a quarterly system, at the beginning of the quarter, our receivables jump and then bleed off through the balance of the quarter. And they are consistent with last year in terms of where we stand in terms of our receivables compared to last year, which was just up $27,000 from last year. So we're doing reasonable. In terms of income, jumping down to the income, okay. That was $387,939, which was $7,853 over budget, which is good news. And that's basically driven by the interest better than what we budgeted for. Working capital, that's where we get money when we resell homes. That's what the home ownership or home resales are picking up. And then and also violations were better than budget, or over budget. This slightly offset by collection costs, which were less than budget, and late fees and rebills, which were less than budget. And that the late fee and rebills are really a timing issue, since we bill on a quarterly basis. We really we're in the process of looking at resetting the timing for that, so that it only shows up on a quarterly basis instead of just smoothed over 12 months. So, okay, in terms of expenses, administration was $83,383, which is $16,000 less than budget, and that's due to on-site staff and monitors were less than we budgeted. We haven't paid yet for our reserve study, so that's a timing issue. And again, the rebill and the lien costs, and again, that's the timing issue on those. Let's see. The only offset to against, even though we were less than budget, there was over budget in terms of office supply, in terms of printing and postage, that we again were getting the letters out for the design review, different things that were going on. Let's see. In terms of utilities were 14,000 less than budget. Again, that's the water and sewer and electric were both less than the budgeted amount. In terms of landscaping was 124,000, which was over budget by $32,554, and that's due to the fact that we got our bill for erosion that we've been doing. There were some landscape extras that were done, and there were some trees that had to be removed on an emergency basis. And let's see, in terms of the pool and spa, again, that was $604, $41 over budget, and that's really the chemicals. Let's see, next one, the water, lakes and water was only $58 different than budget. And then finally, common area was $103,000, which is $12,000 under budget. And that is due to again, capital improvement. We haven't done any major expenses for our capital improvement, and our contingency, we had no real contingency expenses for the month, and that was partially, the less than budget was partially offset by the fact that we did make our first payment for the inspection of the walls. Then jumping down to reserve, we had for the month, $6,115 for a reserve account to be paid for, and that was for concrete work. concrete work, the grinding down that we're doing in the various parts of the community in terms of the sidewalks. Any questions? That's a board.
Board have any questions at this time? Motion to accept?
I make a motion to accept the April 30th financial report.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, any discussion from the community? Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting? Thank you. With that, we'll now move up to our vendor update, which will be Gothic at this time. Trevor? Trevor? Should be on.
I think I'll be out of most people's way. All right, perfect. Okay, so a few things that took place in April. It was a pretty steady month. We completed the cutbacks we were going to, frost sandwich plants. We aerated all the turf areas. The turf is transitioning currently. It's transitioning pretty well considering the weather. With Bermuda, typically you need over 60 degrees at night for it to fully transition. So it is transitioning a tiny bit slower than it typically would, but overall the transition is going really well. And all the winter flowers throughout the community were replaced as well. So I just got some pictures of the transitioning turf up there. Trying to put a little less landscape pictures on there, just regular pictures. So we did retention dragging throughout the community. So that just brings all the rocks back up. When all the water goes in the retentions, it causes debris, everything else to fill those up, and they just get kind of unsightly with the dirt. So we drag those just to bring the rock back up and make them look a lot better. Then we have some pictures of the summer flowers that went in as well. All right, and then we've got some erosion pictures. So we tried to do some before, during, and after just to give a quick overview. It has the areas as well as the locations for the work that was completed. So the first slide is two pictures. One's at the main entrance at Golf Club Drive and Johnson Ranch Boulevard. And this is one of the erosion areas at Long Branch Park next to it that was completed. Yeah, really big one. So the one on Long Branch, I'll jump to that real quick. We were actually able to stockpile quite a bit of rock on that one. It seemed like it was kind of a Band-Aid fix previous where whenever it washed away, they just kind of put more rock on it, which I totally understand. So we were able to uncover tons of rock. We had it stockpiled at a different location in the community, away from everything. We're actually able to use some of that and save the association money going forward on some of the erosion projects. So at the end of Long Branch Park, we had to do piping under the sidewalk, enlarge a drain, and get that area back together. And then the other two were some smaller erosion projects, just where the scuppler drain had washed away along the sides. So we added the riprap or river rock, cemented it in, and brought that area back. It's just a newsletter that we do. Monsoon season is coming up in a couple months, so just to give everybody kind of a heads up of what to expect. Sorry, of what to expect from that. So we just did, this is a list of work orders that were completed through the month and decided to put a little bit of humor into it. And then we had quite a big list of irrigation repairs. Now that we've got all the irrigation back onto turf areas and with the heat that's been coming, just with the increased water times, just getting the system back up, had quite a bit to repair going, for that month. Then same thing we do every month. We've just got staffing reports up there just to give an idea of who we've had and when we've had them in the community. So looking forward, let's see. So we've done a lot of that. The plant replacements were done. We're going to meet this week on that to get some clarification. Curbing proposal's done. The turf reduction will be at the June work session. I believe the curbing one. Tree trimming is about to begin. The erosion was repaired, and we're on our way right now with poly to PVC. So currently we've finished all the areas that are behind Solera for poly to PVC. We've finished a large portion of equestrian, and currently they're working, tell me what that street name's that goes by the schools.
They're over on Desert
Desert Willow?
Yeah, Desert Willow and mentioned DLC stuff, we're finding some areas that don't have any water. No valves for blocks. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, we've done some upgrades and stuff that we're able to put in the project, so it won't be an additional charge to you guys, but there's a couple lines we've increased the size of and done a couple things, but.
It's moving fast.
Yep. So we're getting through that. Any questions from anybody?
One question,
Sure.
on PVC, how much longer you expecting on
So we're doing Area C right now. We're kind of working backwards a little bit. That one, we're hoping we might be able to finish it this week or next week. And we're probably 6 weeks on the following two areas, so I would say 3 months maybe. Did I just do that math right?
that? 6 weeks is 2.
6 weeks on each of the two areas.
Oh.
Each areas.
Yeah, probably 3 months total.
Okay.
But we'll be able to get the granite started probably within about 4 weeks, maybe a little bit less, to get that started to come behind the area we've already finished.
And that'll be finishing up quicker, right?
It will be, yes. Yep. Yes.
Now, is the granite going to be going in these areas that you've been doing the poly to PVC?
A lot of them.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a good amount of overlap, which is the reason that we wanted to start, like on Area C. So because those are areas that once they're complete, we can come back in and go ahead and start the granite and finish those complete granite areas.
Okay. You're not going to be putting more granite along Desert Honeysuckle in the greens too, are you?
Desert honeysuckle, I
Um,
don't think that's on the schedule.
Yeah, because it's still, it's way too much granite. It falls, it gets out onto the sidewalk and the.
Oh, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about now.
Yes, it's
But
on the sidewalk more than it's.
is that by the volleyball court?
Yes.
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 No, there's no granite schedule for that.
Okay, good.
I know, now you say it's
We're
falling
up to
under.
here in granite.
Yep,
Um,
no, there's no granite schedule for those areas.
Another question?
Sure.
What, when you say we still have the row crew, I forget what.
Sorry, right of way.
Right
So
of way.
essentially, we've got it where if it's got a double yellow line on the street, we consider that a right of way. So we have a separate crew that works on that area versus the neighborhoods.
Okay. And what kind of flowers do we have?
It was pentas, potato vine,
Vinkas, Vinkas, and
Is it verbena?
Verbena.
Yeah, okay. I thought that verbena was there on the corner of Ansel and Ironwood. Not Ironwood.
yeah, efficient
Yeah.
given the heat,
Okay,
so.
that's all I
Try
have.
to do a variety, because some are a little tougher on summer flowers, we're not
I
quite as
don't want to
hard.
get too many either, 4 or 5. I don't want to get 10 or 12.
Anybody else from the board? Hearing none? Thank you very much.
All right.
Management team updates? Oh, good. Go for it.
Good evening, everyone. So some quick items we took care of last month. We drained and refilled all the spas at Indigo, Lakeview, and Stardust. Replaced the backflow at Stardust. Of course, we had some shower valves replaced as well as continued with the sidewalk audit. Here's another backflow that was changed out right in Johnson Ranch Boulevard and Horizon Way. We power washed Indigo pool deck and restrooms. We also got some quotes for the light poles around the play area at Indigo as well. There's some of them are starting to look rusted, so we're trying to be proactive and get those replaced when you need it. Of course, there's some more white fence repairs throughout the property. We installed another backflow at Long Branch Park. We're continuing the volleyball refurbishment. This is a touch and go process. I spent 3 days sanding the rust out there, trying to get the old rust off. It's something that has to be done before you top coat it, else it's going to be in vain if you don't get all the rust off. Simply the auto body work. We replaced the chlorinator at Stardust Pool. We had quite a few events. We had to assist with those. We repaired, it wasn't replaced, we repaired the spa blower motor at Indigo. It was just a capacitor needed to replace, so a real simple fix there. Here's another backflow that was installed at Stardust Pool. We actually had to pour this concrete pad as well to receive the new cage. We also had to prep a few backflows. When I say prep, we had to modify the fitting, so when we come in, we can just go ahead and drop this backflow in. So sometimes we're removing the concrete and tying it to old plumbing and bringing it up to grade. So it makes it easier for us to come there at a later date and install a backflow. We did have an issue a few weeks ago with the assistance of Gothic. There was actually a backflow loop on Johnson Ranch Boulevard, which means we had the water pressure come from both areas. They were able to locate the valves that need to be shut off. We know what valves need to be shut off, so moving forward, if we have any issues with these backflows, we can go right to those valves and perform maintenance on them. Over there at the pond cleanup, there's a lot of debris in the pond. We contacted Solitude, and they're going to do a bacteria treatment for the pond to help get rid of some. With that floaty stuff you see in there, it's actually food for the tilapia. And right now, the food is generating faster than tilapia can eat it. So the next stage would be add a bacteria treatment. Usually takes about 30 days for it to take effect. After 30 days, they'll reevaluate as well, see if we need to implement another treatment as well.
I think I'm going to do the same thing you did. Stand back here. So we always like to show you the numbers with regards to our customer care center. Then it's keeping up there in the 200s, and I like to remind you too, that's wonderful because those are calls that the on-site office does not have to take, so it frees us up. So the first number was last month, and this was March, and then the 218 was for April. The work orders processed. This is just through the customer care center. I always like to remind you as well that there's a lot of work orders that the on-site team does as well, but the call center also processes, and in March there were 3, in April there were 16. Resale inspection notices kept us busy. You can see in March there were 71, but in April there were 100. And on those resale disclosures, so that you know, there's a 48-hour turnaround on those, and we literally task compliance with driving by them as well to make sure that there's no architectural problems with the home as well. New homeowners in the community this month from those resale inspections, we did have 68 in April, I should say, not this month, but for the month of April reporting for. And March had 53, so we were up on home sales. And then the design review committee stays very busy with applications. March was 353, and in April they did 260, and you can see a breakdown there of the amount that actually went to the committee. It kept them pretty busy. Next meeting is Wednesday, June 5th. Anyone is welcome to attend those meetings if you would like. It is an open meeting. Let's go to compliance breakdown. The new compliance team is working really hard to make sure that they are covering the community well. As you can see by the numbers, in March there was 324, and in April they did 331 first notice violations. Second notice, we had 25 in April. Parking issued was 77, and then there was only 1 violation with fine amounts. So behind the scenes, I usually have the granite and such listed on here, landscaping, but because Trevor covers that, I left that off. But on the wall audit, we are working on the last phase of the common area walls, and so we should be completed July 1st on that. The reserve study update. I did get an email from the reserve analysts that are requiring some things from me, so I'm working on that for them, and we're expecting a completion in 2 to 3 weeks on that. Sidewalk audit. So our timeline for phase 2 begins the week of June 10th, and that's when we'll go through and check out the additional areas of the community for any sidewalk that might be raised and need to be ground down. Backflow audit. So 6 of the 12 that were stolen have been installed, and then we're looking at 3 more, hopefully by end of next week, I think. We're looking to have 3 more installed, so we're getting there on those. And of the 40 shackle boxes that the board approved, there are 23 of those that are installed, and we're looking at 8 more completed within the next 1 to 2 weeks. Probably 1, but they did want a little extra time on that. And I don't know if you remember, we talked about this, I believe, in our last meeting, where we wanted homeowners to know, like when you're driving the community, you might see something and go, wow, why hasn't that been addressed or talked about? So although not currently working on some of these, we want to let the homeowners know the things in the community, they're on our radar, they're on our list, and we know about them. And this is just a quick list. I won't go through it for you and take your time, but you can see the things that we are aware of and that we are working on currently. Oh, that food trucks didn't come through. Those were some good pictures too. Sorry about that, but I'd like to give a report on the activities as well. We had 3 of them in April, and there were 3,969 in attendance. And so the egg extravaganza, that, of course, our numbers were increased on that because we paired with Florence Unified and Pappas And just a side note from our lifestyle coordinator, she thought it was wonderful that Pappas handed out 2,500 books to kids that particular activity. Okay, thank you.
Any questions from the board? Hearing none. Strategic community plan, we have no updates on that as of this month, we had no meeting. And then we go into old business. First item, which is discussion only, which will be the Magma Road project. We have the management company and the board, because the management company has, on those emails that the community has asked to be passed on us, we have gotten. We have seen them. We have had our own appraiser go out, and with that
I'll have Miss Jennifer talk about it. Thank you.
So we did make some copies for you of the appraiser's review that they sent us this morning. He does agree with the Pinal County appraisal that was given. I did forward the full and the appraisal review and the link to you so you can have it electronic. I guess our next step is to talk about the survey, the questionnaires that we sent out to the 153 homes are due back in tomorrow. We've received quite a few. On our next step, do we want to talk about it? Well, we do have it on the agenda for the June 11th meeting, because we'll compile it all together, put all of them, in a chart for you, the responses. But do we want to go with a full appraisal, or do we want to forego that? And are you satisfied with the appraisal review?
And what's our deadline for accepting or denying their?
It would be the 13th. We need to respond to them if we need more time, or if we accept or deny it.
And we have another meeting before that.
We have it on the 11th. So you guys need to decide, do you want to move forward with another appraisal? Do you want to accept what he said, and then we need to draw up a letter to, from the board to go to them to say we accept, deny, or we need some more time? I don't know if we want to have another meeting with the homeowners for Magma. That's something you guys want to discuss.
Thank you. Do we have anything from any of the members of the board?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do the homeowners, are they aware of the way the procedure works, I guess? And I'm asking that because of the emails we've been receiving. I kind of feel like we should maybe notify the people that are affected of how the process goes, because I feel like the emails we're getting, people are saying, oh, you don't have a choice, you have to take what you're offered, or you don't have to take what you're offered, negotiate. I'm just wondering if they know how eminent domain works, and kind of that, do they know that all of this land is encumbered by drainage restrictions and all of that? Because yes, it looks like it's a whole lot of land, it should be worth a whole lot of money, but realistically, we can't do anything with it.
And they can take it.
Right, so I mean, that's,
Well, I know we're not gonna get the $1 million someone asked us to get.
well, I mean, they've done their appraisal, we've had a review of the appraisal, that's saying that the value is in line. My question is, do we need to communicate this with the homeowners? Perhaps they don't know how the process would work, and like I said, when you look at it, look at the map, it looks like a lot of land, it should seem like it would be worth a whole lot more money, but when you take the whole picture into consideration and the reasons why it's not, I'm just wondering if they're all aware.
And I had the same question.
I'll pass this over to you for a second, Robin.
So in the initial letter that went to the homeowners, it spoke briefly on eminent domain, and at the board's request, they were asked to provide any information or questions they had with regards to negotiations, and that's where we're at. To your point, Dana, if the board wants, we'd probably take the services of our appraiser and just maybe have him simplify it for us. I don't know that you're not probably going to want to send the appraisal out, but maybe give an explanation of course, the land that they think is useful, why it's not. So we can discuss that, and then we need to determine what does negotiations look like, because we don't get, when's the deadline, Jennifer?
The 13th.
No, for homeowners to return theirs.
Oh, tomorrow.
So tomorrow's the deadline on that. Our next meeting is not until the 11th, and of course the deadline's the 13th. So we need to determine what's our next step.
Can we go to Hazelwood and ask him, in his experience, since we know the value from the appraiser says that's about the right value, and we know from what we've seen on the finesse side that the building walls and stuff is clearly out of the question. Can we ask him what his recommendations would be on negotiation? Or would he recommend an attorney, like what do you call it, commercial real estate attorney, to give us some advice on what we could negotiate on? Yeah, what options do we have in terms of negotiation?
I can look into that. I do know that when Pinnell was here, they basically said, ask what you want to ask. Negotiate what you want to negotiate. Are you thinking maybe a level of what you would maybe counter?
What we would counter with, yeah, we need to, clearly, I think countering for putting in walls is probably not realistic based on what we saw from the finesse thing that just came out. But what could we ask for?
Well, one thing I did see, Tim, someone had made a recommendation of putting in a nature trail. Let the county put in a nature trail, just have it go right up along the side. And that's something that both the community could use. And
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What are the things that reasonably could negotiate? So maybe if Hazelwood doesn't know, maybe he can recommend a commercial real estate. I think it's called a commercial real estate attorney that could give us some advice on what we can look for. I'd like to get a little bit more out of this than what they're offering.
And then my question is, should we schedule an extra meeting well before the 11th so that we have our ducks in a row?
I think with the amount of feedback that you're getting and with this, possible research, I'll see what I can find out. You're probably going to want to spend a little time outside of the actual meeting and kind of hammer it out before we meet on the 11th. We can ask for an extension. That would come from the board president. We can help draft that, but you're welcome. That makes sense. Yeah? So if we have another meeting, we could, if you're tasking me with that, I can work on setting that up.
While you're doing all this, why don't we just go ahead and request, if the board has no problem, go ahead and request the extension. That gives us the time to get what we need to get done. Although we'll be rushed, we won't be
As rushed as.
as rushed, thank you.
Maybe we ask for 60, again, they're not going to do anything until 2020. They're not doing anything this year. They've already said that.
Right, it'll be next calendar
They
year.
can't be in a hurry in terms of the activity, so maybe ask for
60 days.
60 days or
Yeah.
90, ask for 90 days.
Yeah.
Ask for a 90-day extension.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from the board?
Yeah. The other thing is I don't think we need to go out for another appraiser. It's a waste of money.
Thank you.
But did we answer Dana's question about, have we explained to those homeowners, like eminent domain and everything, enough?
Not really. I almost feel like we should send an update to them. Even if it's an email or not a letter, I don't care, just something kind of outlining the process to them.
So, I just have a question. So an extra meeting, open session, Magma Road, with homeowners coming to ask the questions and we educate what eminent domain might be, how it works, kind of educate a little bit? Is that what
and also hammer out details.
Yeah, because we
We'll see if
keep
we can
getting
get somebody
emails.
there, we'll see if we can maybe get an expert there for.
Yes.
In charge.
They're all going to.
Okay. The next item up is the illustrious Sun and Gopher contracts. I'll go over portions of it, and I'll hand it over to management so they can explain a little bit better. They have two options right now for us. One at 36 and one at $5,400 for the total, for the purpose of taking care of these gopher problems. They're finding that the time that they're spending right now is not quite enough for what they need to do to take care of that problem. And I'm going to turn it over to you at this point.
So in the last meeting, there was some confusion about the areas that they've been trading. We've only, with as big as the community is, we've only had an hour out here with gophers. And so although the pitch and putt was listed as well as the southwest area of the community that had become so infested in the southwest, and the pitch and putt itself had not had as much activity, they would hit it as needed. But as we walked it, and it's become more crazy with these little critters that are basking in the sun, we need more time. An hour is just not enough to cover the community, and that's why we had him come out and do an audit. That map that I attached when I sent the board packet gave you a really good idea of the areas that have infestation, and 1, even 2 hours out here a month is going to be very difficult to take care of the problem. So my suggestion would be option 3, to have decent coverage. It's going to be twice a month versus coming out for 1 hour a month, and that twice a month would give you 4 hours a month, so that they could actually move around as needed. As activity goes down, they can move to another area, but they can tackle more.
I'll make a motion that we accept option 3, which is twice a month gopher service, 2 hours per treatment, which is a total of 4 hours a month at $7,200 annual cost.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Do we have any discussion from the board?
Just a clarification, if the contract says he's specified the specific areas that you showed in the map, but it also says, and other common areas of the community. So if a homeowner reports, I've seen gophers over here, over there, that is specifically covered by the contract?
Yes, with the 4 hours, it opens it up so much more for them to be throughout the community, and especially we'd want to catch those because then they can become an infestation for a homeowner, so those would become a priority.
Robin, I have one question, sorry. If they do get this under control at the 24 hours, I'm assuming they would negotiate with us and then we could scale back at that time.
Yeah, they won't be coming out if they need to. That would be ideal. Big community, so it might take a minute, but yeah.
I'm just thinking, 11 months from now or 10 months from now, if we get it under control, they're not going to say, oh no, you are under contract for a year.
Well, I will definitely ask Chris on that, but they've always been very, very flexible with the services. They're not going to come out and give a service that's not needed.
Yeah, that's building on that. Can we do this for 6 months and see what happens? Do this for 6 months?
See where we're at.
Yeah, the gophers are clearly,
See progress?
with the construction and stuff that's been going on, they're showing back up again.
Yeah.
And have we talked to the golf club, because it looks like they're coming back on the golf course again,
I'll reach out.
and they were pretty well gone for a while.
Oh, on the Johnson Ranch Golf Club?
Course, yeah.
Not the pitch and putt, but
Golf
okay,
course.
okay.
So I guess I would like to consider just doing 6 months and then have some kind of assessment of,
Because we may be able to scale back then to half.
or to
Yeah, yeah.
twice, to once a month or something.
Depending on if this price is for a year or 6 months. What if the price goes up if it's only a 6-month contract?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we need to know the term of the contract.
Okay.
Any other discussion from the board?
How long was the pitch and putt golf course left with no gopher?
It wasn't, they would also check that periodically, but because there had not been a lot of movement until most recently, with as bad as the southwest region was, that's where they concentrated their time.
I have a hard time understanding the southwest area. According to your map, I see most of it on the east side and the southeast.
Am I saying the wrong? I thought it was
That's-
southwest. I
yeah.
apologize. Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Here is southeast.
I believe it in that map you're showing, it's probably that upper one, Sandy, on the right.
Yeah, this is the pitch and putt.
Okay.
That's
Oh,
the
oh,
pitch and putt
okay.
golf course.
Yeah.
This is the area surrounding that retention basin behind Chase Bank.
Mhm.
And then there's some other areas over here on this side, a walking trail that goes down to Country Crossing. And then behind, what is that, Desert Willow, I think? I don't know, I can't remember the name of the street now. But I know the areas. The only thing is, I don't know what these 3 areas are that were marked. They aren't listed on the areas here.
Right, and that's why it indicates that there will be other areas that are covered. They will go where they need to go, where the biggest infestation is. They're not going to be tied to any specific place. They've been working the areas that were the worst, and then the pitch and putt just started getting some activity. So
So on the pitch and putt, they do from the office down to the pool.
they do.
correct?
Mhm.
Because I walked the pitch and putt today, and yeah, there are some big holes. And I saw some of them. They're cute little critters.
Okay, anything else from the board? Anything from the community? Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question, like, I understand it's a horrible thought, they're killing these poor things, and I understand it's necessary, but then what happens to the holes? If there's does someone go in and fill in the holes, or do they just get left as is?
The way I understand the way they do the carbon monoxide is they put the carbon monoxide on one hole, and then they watch for carbon monoxide to come up through other holes so they can see, okay, wow, we got,
The whole area?
And then, my opinion, and the way I understand it anyway from researching it, is that they then fill in those holes that they see that smoke coming out of, so that the smoke will stay in there, because otherwise the smoke's gonna go out through 50 holes, in the ground.
Well, I'm just thinking, it seems like it'll be just Swiss cheese and someone will fall into it, and then who
Usually-
takes
usually
care
what
of
they-
that?
Usually what they did, especially on military bases up in the Northeast when we had them, is they would gas them, and then someone would come back behind them and start walking the entire gopher trail, for lack of a better phrase.
Do we,
crushing
know-
it.
I guess the question, do we know what they do?
Yeah.
We're speculating.
I mean, can you make sure that's part of the contract? Are they responsible for filling in the holes, or then is that something
It would
else?
be nearly impossible. There are little holes and tunnels under there, impossible to fill. So what they do is just pack the dirt back in where it is, where they did their work.
So if they only put the carbon monoxide thing into one hole, they're only gonna fill that one hole?
What they do is they look for the most activity, the 2 holes or several that show most activity, and they actually put it in both sides. So so that it goes and it fills up their home. Yeah, and then you probably will see them coming out of areas that carbon monoxide's not in. Yes.
But then do you have to worry about those holes? Let's say you eradicate this problem in 6 months, 8 months, whatever it is. Is that then something we'd have to have, like, Gothic go? Do you guys fill in gopher holes?
They will typically go behind,
And they'll fill it in. Someone will fill in the darn holes.
When they go for smoke, they put dirt, so they'll come and just push the dirt back in the hole and fill them up, or our mowers get them in turf, and we'll level it back
So after, it's not an
Eventually,
issue after the fact. That's all I'm wondering, is this then a subsequent that you need to be thinking about now? For, once this problem is resolved, that, you know,
I honestly, from some of the size of some of the holes I've seen, it's gonna, you know,
If it's a veteran family, they end up making, like you say, a bunch of holes which creates a sinkhole, but as long as they get them quick enough, it's kind of just one tube. But like Sandy said, you know, you get it 3 or 4
but it's
or
not
6
like somebody's
months.
gonna create, you know, walk the thing and twist their ankle because they've walked into a hole.
It could happen.
It
Okay.
happens,
It
yeah.
could happen.
I'm thinking about that liability. All right, I've just put the thought in your head,
And as
you
we mow,
know,
we'll point them out.
in my
If we
questioning.
see a sinkhole or something, we'll point it out.
What's the
Okay.
big hole that's in the pitch and putt over by the pond that's like about this big around?
Probably an old tree.
But it's got a couple of cones around it.
Oh, he's probably digging it. He's probably digging it.
Yeah.
we have a motion?
Is there no need to put this out to bid?
Sorry, say that again?
Is there no need to put this out to bid to other companies?
This has been our,
This is our current vendor,
this
correct?
has been our current vendor.
That doesn't mean anything, does it?
I understand that. What I'm asking is, do you want to have this thing progress, or you want to get it taken care of? This is actually something we could just sign off on right now without a bid.
Well, I just don't like signing off on $7,200. Up from, you know, 2 weeks ago it was 3,600, then it went 54, and now it's 72.
The amounts for different options, we have a first and a second. Are we gonna vote?
Yes, we are.
Can you clarify the motion?
I made a motion that we accept option 3, twice a month gopher service, 2 hours per treatment, which totals 4 hours a month.
With any 6 months?
$7,200. I didn't say 6 months. I would like to know the terms of the contract, if this price is based on a year or 6 months.
Then we can't vote on it yet, can we?
It's an annual contract, that's what I thought. It's an annual contract. So my motion is based on the annual contract price. This price may go up if we ask for a 6-month contract.
But it may not either,
So Tim,
until we
you were
ask.
asking for an assessment, what, to see if the activity is dying down?
Yes.
or- Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
that's what I
because
thought.
If the,
the example being the pitch and putt. We put an effort into the pitch and putt. This is going back 2 years, and clearly,
at least 1 year.
at least 1 year, and clearly it had the impact of not having to do it. So I'm saying that, you know, maybe if we do it for 6 months, and then.
We will eradicate them all, and
I think what we can do on this current proposal that we have, let's hand right in. We can hand right in the 6 months, and I will talk with Chris, and obviously he's going to have to sign that and initial next to that. And if that works, we can move forward. If he wants to rewrite the contract specific to 6 months where it's typed, handwritten,
With an evaluation after 6 months?
yes. If he accepts that, he'll sign it and he'll initial next to the handwritten, or we can just simply have him rewrite at a 6-month term if you would prefer that.
12 months with a 6-month opt-out.
It would be
I think
opting out.
that-
The motion is currently on the floor. We will go through that motion first.
So
If
this,
it does not make it, we will go through a motion, we'll go through a second motion for what's been discussed on the other parts. The motion's been made
Yes,
for the year, for the price,
it was seconded.
and it was seconded. All those in favor?
Who seconded?
Dana,
Okay?
that's 4.
How many were there? Let's see.
Me, Dana, you, Ellen.
Bob, what are you voting?
I haven't voted yet. Okay. Thank you. It does not pass at this time. I'll entertain a motion for 6 months.
I'll make a motion for 6 months at the contracted rate of twice a month at $300 per service. So option 3 for 6 months at 300.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I second that.
All those in favor? Motion carried.
Okay, where's my notes at?
Okay, next item is requested to be put on by the treasurer, which is the 2018 year-end cash analysis. And I'll let Tim start that.
Yeah, let me explain this. Basically, what we do at year end is look at what we have in our operating cash balance and compare that to what we need for in the upcoming year in terms of our budget, as well as having in reserve 3 months of operating expense, which is a policy that we have. It's been recommended by the management company. It's one we've adopted for a number of years. So what we do as part of the analysis at year end, we had $2.986661 in cash available. And we then take away from that what our accounts payable is, because we owe that money. We take away from that what the prepaid assessments were, because we owe that money, or will be spent. And we take away the accrued expenses, which are expenses we know are coming. These are our invoices that haven't been processed properly. And that, so from the 2.986, it brings it down to $2,016,542. From that, we take the 3 months of operating cash that we want to keep in reserve, which is $1.270559, which leaves us a money that we do not have to set aside or is not needed for the 2019 budget of $745,943. And this is a result of, in 2018, of how sales are greater than budget, of not having all the expenses, having greater income in terms of things like the sanctions and fees costs that we've been talking about every month, as well as less expenses where we didn't expend last year all our contingency, we didn't expend the capital improvement amount. So it's a combination of multiple areas that drives this money that's not needed for 2019. So what I am proposing is to move this money into 2 buckets. One is to move $125,000 into reserve. And the reason I'm proposing to move that into reserve is we're putting in the shackle boxes as well as putting in the plastic, what do you call it? Backflows, exactly. And those, we have not, our reserve isn't budgeted to that level. It was basically budgeted to kind of a maintenance level. So I would propose, we know it's around a little less than 100,000 for the shackle boxes, and the 25 would cover some of the replacement of the plastic valves. So I take that, put that in reserve, and then put the other, what's the other, 600 or 500 and, no, 600, right? And 25,000, 625, yeah. The other, so I go to 750, I put another 625 into the capital improvement fund. So the total would be 750 instead of 745. That is what I would propose.
Okay, so it's 625 into
The capital, that $300,000 fund, which then we could use for, and keep it in cash, because we know we've got the wall activity coming up, and Robin wants to look at potentially more work in on the erosion project. So we want to have that available should we need that, as well as when the reservist comes in with their new reserve study, we may need to move some of that money into the reserve to bring it up to the 70% level that we're talking about. So that is my motion, is 125 to reserve and 625 to capital improvement.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion from the board?
Tim, I have a question.
Sure.
Was any of the excess funds attributable to anything that was budgeted for but not completed last year? Maintenance items that were deferred or anything like that?
I'm sure there was, yeah. Again, it's the overall expenses less than what we expect. For example, I'm trying to think of one that we, I think some of the irrigation expenses and stuff. So they may come up this year, but we don't anticipate. Again, when we develop the budget, we look at what we expect to be paying and what we have spent so far this year. And so it's not, we're looking forward in terms of what we expect to spend for the year.
No, I understand. I'm just wondering, like, if there was projects on the docket for last year that maybe the board didn't approve or something, and monies were already set aside, and that's where the excess is. Like, let's say resurfacing the basketball courts, and they didn't get done last year, so we.
That's reserve fund. Those kinds of things are reserve fund projects. This is purely operating expenses, year-to-year operating expenses, not reserve kind of stuff. Because there are a number of things that are in the reserve that we're not done last year. Does that help?
Yeah, I guess I'm just questioning, because there are some things that I've noticed that need to be taken care of, and I'm just wondering if some of those monies could be spent on those projects now because we have the excess.
Always. That's what the board's there for.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, basically, what we've been waiting for is the wall project, because we know that's big. That's basically what we've been holding off on in terms, because the intent last year was actually to spend. We had 4 projects, landscape improvement projects that we had identified, that we have architectural drawings on, and we were expecting to go forward with those until the wall issue came up. So that was a big chunk of what was not expended, and it'll still be held off until we figure out what our higher priority is.
I have a question too. With this amount, can we revisit FSR's need for a second maintenance vehicle?
That is being put off until June, I believe.
Research. Yeah.
I think it's being put off to the June meeting.
So my thought is, do we maybe not put all of this away?
It's not put away. It's in
cash.
It's just another
It can
account.
still be spent.
It's what I say. It's all going to be kept in cash. It's just getting it into another account so that our operating account is clear in terms of what we expect to be spending.
Okay.
Anything else from the board? From the community? Hearing none, motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Motion passed. Okay, something that we received earlier today as email from management in regards to Desert Lily. Hopefully everyone had a chance to read that email earlier today. One second. Okay. Basically what happened, and our project partners are here as well. I'll have our management talk about it first. They basically received 2 quotes. They've recommended one, and from that I'll hand it over to management.
But they're rest of the board doesn't have the information.
Right. I don't know why that didn't go out. It was right after I sent to him, I sent to the board. As a matter of fact, I just got done telling Solera that it had been sent out. 2 proposals came in, so if you'll get into your emails tomorrow, I'll look and see what happened to it. Okay, and take a look at that. So to kind of keep on our timelines, they have 2 vendors. Gothic was one, and what was the name of the other one? S&J Grading, right. So we'll have you take a look at those and maybe get comments back. Solera has chosen S&A Grading, so when you're looking at that, what I would propose is that as a board, it just came in today. I would take a look at it and then pose any questions you have with regards of you know, who they've chosen for this. It's just what we need to do to move forward with monsoon coming. You'll see that in the email, and if you'll take a look and then ask any questions, and we'll go from there.
Will you refresh my memory? Solera's going to take lead on this project, is that what it is?
Yes, they were chosen to take lead, and I believe 2 of the 4 vendors turned in proposals, so they stopped there, and they've made their choice. So you need to look at it, and you have some say. So once you go over these 2 proposals and you have any questions, you might want to know why they chose one over another. But I would get the questions to me, as quickly as you can. And then we'll go from there. We'll need to determine if we need another meeting to discuss contracts, if it gets that involved, or if you want to trust that in that we said that they were going to lead, that you're comfortable with their choice.
Thank you.
We said that we were going to be comfortable with it, and we also said we had have the money to cover our portion of it, but
Well, if
did
I
you?
might, I would just clarify that 4 companies were going to bid on it, but only 2 came in at the deadline, which was last Friday. One was Gothic and one was S&J. The only reason that we thought we would go with S&J is because they were in on the project 4 years ago when it was initiated. Excuse me. They are an excavation company, so they already have the equipment. They don't have to rent it. And there was a $4,000 difference in the proposal. So that's the reason that we're going with them.
Thank you.
Now, and also the deadline to select the bidder is 6/3, which is next Monday. So if we want to stay on our timeline, which we'd like to do because of the monsoons.
Right.
So we do have another company who today said that they misread the timeline and they were going to submit their proposal tomorrow. But to be fair to the companies who did bid the project at the right time, we don't feel that we should even accept the bid if it came in after Friday night.
If I recall, our joint agreement says that we have to approve the vendors. Do we need to do a written consent? If we're all in agreement? So do we need to make a motion to that effect?
I don't remember that portion, but if we need to make a motion to accept, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, the way, again, I haven't got it in front of me, but as I recall, we said it was a joint agreement between Solera and John, which a joint agreement to me means you need to have a written approval from us that we agree with, or a motion that says we agree with the recommendation.
Are you ready to do that tonight without having seen the proposals?
I'm saying if I could make a motion that said unanimous consent pending the approval, the email approval by all board members. If you don't get an email approval by all board members, then we set up a meeting to discuss it.
You could do an action in lieu once you've all had a chance to go over
Yeah, or,
them.
whatever, whatever the,
I'm comfortable with your suggestion.
So I'd like to make a motion that.
Then make the motion and let's get it seconded.
I think it's, I think we've been calling it unanimous consent motion, pending approval by the board.
So we each need to give Robin written approval.
We need to give Robin written approval in the email saying yes, we approve whatever.
After we read
After
our
you-
emails.
Yeah.
And if you don't approve,
I'll second your motion.
Any other discussion from the board? Hearing none, any discussion from the community? Yes, sir.
I may have missed out just briefly, what is the project and what is the amount?
Excuse me. The project is a drainage project that affects both us and Solera. If we do not take care of this properly before the monsoons, it could damage some more homes up in the Solera area. And since the property is both ours and Solera, we're going in under a joint project to ensure this is taken care of. What was the second half? I'm sorry, I'm having a moment. The amount right now is at $15,000. You're welcome, sir. Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in approval of the motion? Thank you, motion's passed. Last item we have right now, before we go into the last item, I want to go over the action items to make sure we have those taken care of. So the action items I have that I can see right now, please correct me if I'm missing anything, is going to be the email requesting the extension on the eminent domain, and then scheduling an extra meeting so we can go over that, make sure we have information for our attorney, what we should get, in other words, what they recommend we should be doing. Finalizing the Desert Lily to make sure that's taken care of. Let's see. The Gopher contract, thank you. And, I'm sorry, say again? Moving the funds, yes. And is there anything else?
Tim, did you want that email to go to accounting tomorrow, Tim, for the access? You want that moved as soon as possible?
Yeah, we should move it, yeah. And make sure they keep it in cash,
Okay, anything else from the board that we're missing? Okay. Last item before we go to the homeowner open forum will be information and discussion only on the first service residential contract. During this time, we will keep everything in a professional, non-threatening manner. We will not talk about personnel. We will not talk about any innuendo. It will strictly be discussion on it. The board of directors has already had several meetings. As it stands right now, what we are looking at doing is one of two options. It's either going to be, as it stands right now, either renew or renew with modification of the contract. And at that point, I'm going to leave it open for discussion, first from the board, and then from the community. Nothing from the board. Do I have anything from the community? Yes, ma'am.
Are you guys entertaining increasing staff in the next year? Because it just seems like it's been a struggle for First Service, because we're a very large community. And if they need more people, is that something that we're gonna be able to give them? I mean, you know, poor Mark is 1.5 people. Maybe we need 5 people to service this community, and, you know, maybe they need somebody else in the office, I don't know. I mean, or is that something that you guys are considering?
That would be part of any negotiation that would be done.
Okay.
I can't go much farther than that right now.
No, just wanna make sure, because
No, I understand.
personally, I feel like you need more people. I do. I mean, so my vote would be give them somebody. You know?
About half a person running around there.
Give them another person, for God's sake. You
Thank you.
know?
Yes, sir.
When does the contract expire and what are the renewal possibilities or options?
I'm sorry, the contract goes under review now. The existing first contract will expire only if we do not auto-approve it, okay? That's the reason why we're looking at possibly renegotiating certain items. It would end at the end of this year, at the end of the calendar year, okay?
It's a 2-year contract.
It's a 2-year, but it will always be under a even number of years, no matter who is going to be the management company.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so our first service is hands tied at doing some things. And I'm gonna say, for example, there was a complaint about no flags at the entrance of Johnson Ranch for Memorial Day. The Christmas decorations were horrible. If we're gonna emit a prosperous community, we probably need to try to dress it up a little bit. And I don't know if their hands are tied or if it comes back to the board.
It's not necessarily that their hands are tied. Yesterday was a holiday, as you know, and they were not working, so their flags at their office were not up. However, the flags at the pools were at half-staff till noon and then went up to full staff as required. As far as the entrance goes, most of them, as the board, fund with, what is our entrance? Is it done on Johnson Ranch at the southern end, Johnson Ranch at the northern end? Is it over at Bella Vista and Ganzel? Is it over at one of the other roads? You know, we are stretched out in such an area, okay? I'm not making light of what you're asking. We just got a very, very big area. I appreciate that Solera put out their flags, and thank God they only got the 2 entrances. Well, 3, I think. Oh, excuse me, you're hiding one on me. But, you know, they're a much smaller area and a smaller community. I'm not making, like I said, I'm not making light of what you're asking.
Can I?
There's a lot of us here that are veterans and do appreciate those flags, okay? So, no, that wasn't that. As far as the Christmas decorations were, I know there was a confusion, for lack of a better phrase, and that got rectified as soon as it was brought to someone's attention. It may not have been to what everyone wanted, but they did put something up, and it'll probably be better this year as well. Okay?
Can I just add to the flag?
Yes, ma'am.
And I can't give you a date when, but in the past, I've been out here like 18 and a half years.
Connie, can you use your mic?
Sorry. There's always been flags at the entrance to Johnson Ranch on Hunt Highway, always.
Okay, I'm not making light, I'm just saying which entrance.
Right before Solera.
Let me give you, basically what that is the Boy Scout troops are the ones that put out the flags. Okay, the troop that was putting out the flags backed away from doing it. I would suggest that because again, as a veteran, and the board has approved it, it's not a big expense. The board has approved it in the past, that perhaps the management company could go out again and try and contact a local Boy Scout company, because they do it at Santan Heights, and see if they would be willing to come up here.
Do we have the flags or they provide?
No, but they provide the
Oh, they
flags.
do.
I mean, and they also do residential. I did it up until the time that the troop pulled out that was doing it, and basically said, you have that option of buying the flag. We're not going to do it anymore for whatever reason. I don't know why.
And as far as the troops go, A lot of those were done by the Latter-day Saint
Yes,
churches.
they were.
And because of the restructuring within the scouting program, they have moved out of the formal Boy Scout program. So that's the reason why they probably have not been doing it lately. So I'm not sure what they're doing.
And my guess is, knowing where they're going, they're gonna have a program that looks exactly like the Boy Scout program. So I'm saying it may well be.
It'll just be called something else.
Worth a reaching out. We have the.
I think that we need to really look at that because I went to Queen Creek yesterday to Home Depot. All the way there, Santan Heights, every one of their entrances, flags. Morning Sun Farms, flags. Power Ranch, which is a huge, huge development with probably 8 or 9 at least entrances, flags at every one of them. Cortina, flags at every one of them. So it was discouraging that we didn't have any flags. And
So maybe we ask Santan Heights who they use to do the flags.
well, they may purchase their own flags, I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we could ask.
I don't know. But it was pretty sad.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So my comment was, First Services gets the black eye. And a lot of people in the community might be thinking down on their services because it's not properly conveyed, that there's not a good hand.
We aren't organized
You know,
to do it.
It's their responsibility right now.
Well, I think, excuse me for overstepping, but I think to answer your question, that First Service takes direction from the board. So I would say that if their hands are tied, they're being tied, not to take a stand, but by the board. We need to give them direction. If we want flags, we need to tell them to
That's
get us
exactly where
flags.
I'm coming from. So the community might cast a bad light on First Services because the board isn't.
Because the board missed something, exactly. Yes, ma'am.
So I just want a clarification. So First Residential is going to be our HOA?
No, that's not decided yet.
It's not. You guys are voting on it? I thought it was, I heard you renew as is or renew with modifications. I'm not sure what it was.
What we discussed so far is we are going to we're going to continue on right now and look at the contract and renegotiate. That's what we're going to do. Anything else that comes up, we will keep everyone appraised.
So what modifications were you thinking of?
Those modifications will be brought up to the company at the executive board. Okay?
So that's what we're asking from you guys, right? Is your input on anything you would like to see possibly as a negotiation item for modification? Right?
However, they don't, most of them I don't think have a copy of the contract, so you don't know what would be modified, I don't believe.
And that's fine.
You can request a copy of the contract from the office.
Well, maybe that should go out to homeowners.
That's your right to request a document. Is there a problem with that, President?
No, Sandy, there isn't.
Well, you look like you.
I am trying to get my words out
Okay,
correctly.
sorry.
Thank you. With that said, is there anything else from the board? If not, we go to open forum.
Give it to Jennifer.
Actually, you can bring it up.
Yep.
Hopefully I say your names right. If I say them wrong, I apologize. Deb Gret, is that correct? Deb.
Yep, you got it.
Okay. Get a summary, breakdown. I'm not sure what you're looking for here. If you could explain it, please, ma'am.
Sure. The events that we've done January through June, maybe next month's meeting, could we do a summary, just like, what we've done, where we're at considering budget, what the cost of each event was, how many people attended, just kind of like an executive breakdown. How are we doing? What's coming up next for the next 6 months?
We will take a look at that, thank you. Janet Warner, you had a question on elections, I believe it was?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So basically, when there's an election, I just feel that there should be 2 sets of eyes counting votes, like the state election that was just done last meeting or whatever it was. I mean, only one person counted. I mean, when we had the big election, you had a private company or something, and then 2 people actually counted, which is, to me, would be complete and total transparency. I'm not saying there was any wrongdoing, but I think when it comes to an election, there should be 2 sets of eyes.
Okay, I thank you for that. Go ahead, Tim.
Clarification.
You can go ahead, Tim.
There were multiple people that counted the ballot. They were called out from the audience to come and count the ballots.
Oh.
No, she's talking about last week.
She's talking about the one 2 weeks ago.
Replacing Conan.
The replacement.
Voting Dana
Is
in.
that what
Yeah.
you're talking about?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Misunderstood.
I mean, it just seems like that should be the right thing to do. It would be complete and total transparency.
No, it's
There
good
are 2
input.
sets of eyes.
Ms. Stockton?
Oh, I had more questions. Are there park hours?
Yes.
What?
Are there park hours?
Like there's pull hours or there park hours?
Offhand, honestly, I don't know what the time zone are those, because we're in the process of making signs, so there might be some discussion on park hours, because it's part of our project moving forward. Pinal County has asked that we put signs in the park so they have a little more teeth in the game if they come out. So we're in the process of looking at all of the rules and regs for pools and parks and determining times. I want to say it's 9 p.m. I could be wrong, yeah. 9 p.m., which I think is a pretty reasonable time.
I think so too. And I think maybe you could put it in the e-blast.
Oh, yeah.
That way parents will know.
Remind them of the hours. I like that.
Thank you. Jean Stockton? That's you?
Yeah.
Hi, Jean.
Hi, how are you?
Wonderful.
I sent Robin an email because something came to my attention, and I apologize if it's your vehicle, but there was a trailer parked in the Indigo Park swimming parking lot. It took out 4 parking spots, and it blocked part of the crosswalk. It was a holiday weekend. I can understand possibly parking there throughout the week if they're gonna be working again, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they don't wanna drive it home Friday. But I think it was very inconsiderate for that vehicle to be parked there. And I'd also like to ask the board to have somebody go and check the ground where that was parked. I don't know if it's gonna damage it from the weight sitting on there, but I would sure hate to incur additional expenses because someone's parking on the blacktop parking area.
I saw that, actually, I think I saw it on Facebook. It was a huge tractor on this huge flatbed.
It was, and also, Dana and Robin, if you could help me out with this if I missed anything. It was a contractor, one of our contractors out there that was doing replacement of the dirt.
Vendors.
Yeah, and we were unaware that it was parked there, and when we came in this morning, we found out about it right away. to share with them that, you know, they couldn't park there. That was the first we had heard of it, so thank you for sharing that. Because it was being parked at night after hours when we were gone, and they weren't doing it purposefully. They've done work in the community before, and there's just never been a complaint, but especially with the holiday. Yeah, that was.
So when you do your signs,
yes.
Can you add something that says no overnight parking or something?
Yes, and what we learned from this too, I mean, we're always looking for ways to improve. We'll just make sure that if any vendors are bringing equipment, we're not asked, nor do we know that the tractor was going to stay. It typically didn't, but with the size of this particular project, they were looking for a place to park. So we remedied that, but yeah, we'll make sure that you know, we cover as much as we can on those signs.
Thank you, and thanks for your response to
Robin, if there's ever a vendor that needs parking at our yard, there's tons of space. It's right around the corner from Johnson Ranch, so it'll hold trailers and stuff like that.
Thank you, appreciate that.
You like charging?
Yeah, just charge it.
For the one that he had, we might charge him a little. That was a pretty big truck.
With nothing else on the board, the meeting is now adjourned.